two things before we start the walk. One is I want to give you a teeny bit of history about this place and have you sort of be prepared for what to look at. But I also want you to be prepared to look at things that I don't tell you about, all right? Because I'm not going to be able to tell you everything, and we're probably going to see things that are unexpected, okay? Road, this is an entirely managed, transformed landscape, all right? But at the other end of the pond, there's a dam. And you're right, it was originally dammed to make a nail factory. And that nail factory was made in 1815. Now, what do you think was happening in this country around that time? What was already in place was something called the Industrial Revolution. So the environment was being torqued to serve that purpose. Okay, about between 10 and 22,000 years ago, this landscape was covered by a glacier. But when the glacier was here, there was still the remnants of that little pond, that little river under there, and the river carried with it like rocks underneath the ice, okay? And the ice froze and froze and froze, and eventually when the ice melted, there was this little mound, or actually large mound of rock left by the river that had carried those rocks. So it's called an esker. Notice that the esker was prominent in 1630, and it's still prominent today. And we're going to take a look, we're going to walk on the esker. It's very exciting, okay? So, and eventually you're going to notice behind these trees and up there is the esker, right? So this would have been where the Native Americans were camped, although the land was bought from them in the 17th century for some bushels of corn.
A little bit.
Yeah, it's probably a tree that died and fell over, and it's close to the water, which means that the roots would be wet and unsecure. Now, can you see, if you look at how that trunk has fallen and see how that there's like a new tree coming up out of this stump? Can you see right out here? Right out there? That means this is a nurse log, right? It's a nurse to new life. So sometimes when trees fall over, people want to get rid of them right away, but leaving them there sometimes allows a new tree to emerge. Okay. All right, we're going to keep going. Anyway, this is called a glacial erratic. A glacial erratic, which means that the glacier left this behind as it moved, and something melted here and left this here. So if you see a field and there are these giant boulders in it, and you know that glaciers were present, chances are those are glacial erratics that you're looking at. Okay? All right. So this is all about evidence of prior activity in the landscape. Imagine 10,000 years ago, a glacier covering this whole area, and that esker represents an underground river that gathered all those stones, because you know how water kind of gathers stuff together. And when the glacier moved and melted, that giant, it's a woodpecker, that giant esker was left behind. Okay? But this is a marker for the Hastings family member. If we wanted to know the diameter of the original tree, how would we find out?
Cut it down.
Well, hopefully we won't cut it down. But if we went to the center of each of these and drew a circle that connected them, we would get a sense of how big around the original tree was. And they're talking about, right? The way in which trees grow really tall and their branches kind of come across and create almost like a tent. So this is a canopy conifer that has whorled branches. See how they're almost, when they appear roughly in the same plane, and then there's a space, and then there's more, and a space, and more. And this space between each set of whorls equals 1 year of the tree's life. Okay, so this is an example of whorled limbs. They only happen on conifers. So this is the dam. So if you look over this side and listen, you can hear the water rushing down, and they wanted to trap the water so that they could exert or take the energy from the water to run the mill, whether it was a nail factory or a paper mill, okay? And then guess what this is over here? What's this? What's coming up? This is Rosemary Grove. Okay? So this is what it used to look like before they dammed it to get Longfellow. All right? Notice this is...
What was the most surprising thing you've seen today at Longfellow Pond?
I think the most surprising thing was like all of the grave marker and all of the evidence of the people who have lived here in the past. you sort of think about like Massachusetts and areas in Wellesley, like they get developed all the time, so it's kind of cool to see the history like actually in person.